Hi all, welcome to Workato Masterclass series. Today we are going to discuss about trigger dispatch versus callable functions. So before we move into our today's session, let's have a quick recap on what we have studied in the previous session. So we have studied about validating the recipe using test cases, right? So if you have missed it, please go and check our previous video. I'll be providing the link in the description box as well as you can click I button at the right for video. So let's jump into our today's session about discussing about our trigger dispatch versus callable recipe. Which one we should use, right? So each one of the cases is having its own importance, right? And hence we have to be very careful or we have to be very cautious about while using a trigger dispatch and the callable recipes. Okay. So let us understand what is trigger dispatch, then followed by callable recipe, right? So this trigger dispatch is nothing but say you'll be having a trigger, for example, from the applications or API or a webhook. Okay. So you'll be having a separate recipes for each of the set of function, like maybe a subtask, for example. Like let's take example of mathematical operations, say, okay, addition operations, subtraction operation, and multiplication operation. Okay, you're doing it. So in the trigger dispatch, what happens is you'll be calling a separate recipe for each of the mathematical operations to be handled. Say addition recipe separate, subtraction recipe separate, so multiplication recipe separate, right? So what happened? So you'll be having a total four recipes, right? Based on the requirements, you'll be calling the each of the recipes separately, right? So here the consumption of the recipes are more, right? So it has an importance when you have a complex, say each operation is complex, then it'll be better to go with a trigger dispatch since you cannot go with a callable recipe since it's a it'll be like all the operations handled in a single recipes, right? Let's go. Well, let's discuss on the callable recipes when we talk about this particular operation, how to handle it. Okay. So in this case, what will happen? So you'll be calling each of the function like the recipes functions separately, right? Okay. Now what happens in a callable recipes like you have a main recipe, okay? Then you'll be calling the callable recipes with a passing up operation names and followed by the which like the numbers, right? So to do the addition, subtraction, and multiplications. So based on the addition, subtraction, and multiplications, the operations which you send, so you'll be having a if else, else if, and else, right? So based on that particular operations, you'll be it will be go and check the particular condition check validations. So when will be execute the particular action based on the operations, right? So when it will be used, when it will be suitable for going with a callable recipes. So example, you have a simple and repetitive text. So example, operations may be different, but you're doing a a same kind of like addition will be doing a mathematical like the addition operation, like you'll be seeing a plus symbol, right? Whereas in the multiplication, you'll be seeing a star, right? Whereas in the subtraction, you'll be seeing a minus sign, right? So these are the difference. But there's no record of having a separate operation for it. You can handle it in a one single recipe without having a validation side. Okay. So this is about the trigger dispatch and the callable recipe in the theory part. Like what we have understood. Now we understood what is trigger dispatch and a callable recipe in a theory ones, right? So let's go and do it in a practical way. Okay, now let's discuss in a practical way. So first we'll discuss about trigger dispatch. Okay, to make it simple, I have not used any kind of application based or a API based call to this particular to call any addition operation or a multiplication operation. Okay, so what I've did, I'm just using a trigger based scheduler based trigger so that it will be passed. I'll be calling each functionality separately to do the operations. Okay. So this is one way of understanding the trigger recipes, like trigger dispatch. Or say example, I can do, say here instead of a trigger, I can call as API. Okay, API platforms. I can create the a JSON. Say example, I'm passing the schema. Okay, say I want operation. Then I'll be adding, say, number one should be a type of number. Okay, then I will call it number num2. Okay, it's also type number. Since I cannot, I'm not validating on based on the only on the integers, so it will be kind of a float. Can be have a float numbers as well, right? Two addition. So this is how maybe it looks. So let me add response as well. I'm just adding right now as response. Okay, just say I just put it 200k. That may be possibility of edit as well, but I'm just taking here in the case of uh, a positive scenarios. Okay, so success. Okay, so I'll take it as the operation is equal to addition. Okay, addition it is. The similar way, else if. Let's put it else if. Okay, now operation is equals multiplications. Okay, so I'll not add anything here. Response. I have to add a response, correct? So let me add a response as well. So that API. So API platforms class for the response, correct? So I have to go for response. I'll say successfully added two numbers. Okay, so that response. But so this will be the similar way to for the multiplications. But in this case, that instead of 100, successfully multiplied two numbers. Okay, in this case, I just add API response. In this case, I have to add the negative as well. So let me add one more response as failure. Okay. So I'll just give 400 bad requests for now. What to do? So I'll just take it as from the API. So that will be like where to do these operations. Okay. So I'll add the reason error message. Okay. So this is now set with the respect to the recipes now. But I have to what? I have to set now the fragments, API fragments, right? Let's go there and I'll show you the API collections as well. So now all I do, I will create one more API collections for to understand this to to make it easy process. So let's understand this. Okay, I'll go to the recipes. I'll go to this one. Let's understand what all applications we have. Okay, so now if you see, observe here, there are two. One is for callable dispatch process, and one more is that I want to take this as the trigger dispatch. Correct. So I'll change it to instead of get, I'll do post. So now it will be go to the next, and the collection name is trigger dispatch. Okay, version is one. Let's create collections. Weave collections. Now see, observe, this is now it's set. Correct. So now what have to set is, if you observe, a trigger test also is always available. Right. Now let's activate endpoint. Now it lasts for the particular recipe has to be what? In a start state. So let me start this recipe. Okay. Now we'll understand first trigger dispatch, then we'll understand the callable recipe. Okay, callable function basically. Okay, let's try it out. Now I'll say operation is addition, number is 34 and 45. Okay, let's first understand whether I have given the same number I passed or not. So if you observe, I have hard coded, correct? So let me add that particular numbers to be passed again instead of hard coding it. Okay, num1 and num2. Okay, now similarly to application multiplication operations, I'll do that same from the API. I'll take it num1 and num2. Okay, perfect. Now I'll save it again. So we start the recipes. Now I have to see whether all the recipe functions are running, right? Otherwise it will fail. So now if you observe, it's failing. It's what, like everything is done, correct? So now let me start executing that. What will happen? I do this. So if you observe, it says like successfully added two numbers. I got 37. That's what exactly we wanted, correct? So again, we'll do the multiplications. Okay. So this is what we are looking for, correct? That the particular name of the operations. Let's see that as well. Okay. Yeah, that's correct. So now what I'll do execute multiplications. M is capital. I have to be careful with the case wise since I not added the both the cases here, right? Like I have to either have to do the down case or uppercase. I didn't do that. So let's just to do that. So I just give a same operation names. I execute it. So there are something is wrong with this now. What happened? We'll see. So we not receive the exact details, exact data, correct? Which we wanted. We received something. Let's understand. Is correct. So it went to that particular recipe. So we got 102. Now we got response as. So response has something we did wrong here. So let's see, understand what we have made wrong. Okay. I'm stopping recipes. I'm going back to the recipe in the editing mode. I'll go to the response. Okay. See, I did wrong. I have to take from response from where? From the 7th step. This was wrong. So I'm just saving it again now. I'll start the recipe. Let's run the same again. Okay. Hopefully it's running. Okay. I'll just execute now. Okay. See. So this is what about the trigger dispatch. Now means if you understood, it ran the same main recipe, but it has two different recipes to run for the two operations. additions, and subtractions. Means totally three recipes got back. Correct? Like internet runs two only based on the operations. Okay, two recipes. Now, if you observe the one more that is called now in the one more type is handling operations. That's a function call that is for the trigger based, like sorry, the callable functions. So callable functions, what is that? I'm handling all the operation inside the single recipes, right? Means I'm not differentiating the two operations in the to the separate recipes. I'm handling it in the single recipe without having a validations with respect to operations names. Okay, let's understand this how it works now. So if we need a separate recipes or sub functions to make you understanding the all the how many calls happen to that particular recipes, then and also that complex operations as well, then should be going with a separate operations. Whereas it's a very simple and you can handle it the differentiating through a validation, then you have to go with a callable functions. Okay, let's understand now. I'll go back to the another collection that is for the callable functions to understand. Okay. Now, now I'll go to this particular dispatch. Uh, okay. Should be it's trigger dispatch. Sorry, this is not trigger dispatch. Once again, okay. This is not a trigger dispatch. Okay, this is callable functions. Okay. Now, let me. Now, what I'll do, I'll go to test request. I try it out. Now, similarly, I have to pass the operations, addition and subtractions, like the multiplications. Say just pass the same operations name. Okay, just say for the same thing. Now, I have to check whether I'm passing correctly or let's see. Pass the okay. I'm passing the results, right? I'm passing the results. Now I have to check whether my callable dispatch process, that is callable functions, handling it or not, passing it or not. So now if you observe, I'm not passing it anything, correct? So let me do one thing. Let me edit this again recipe and pass the success or field response. Now if you observe, I am pending the success response, right? This is success. Similarly, I have to add one more response is failure response, right? So I'll just take it as 400 now for a sake of understanding, simplifying it. So I'll just add failure. Okay. I'll just add string instead of numbers or something. Okay. Say instead of number, I'll just go with string and save it. Now I'll give as now after this particular function call, I have an option to keep send back the response, API response, correct? So I'll select this. I have select what? Success in this case, right? Successfully completed. Completed. What operations? I have to take it from where? From here. And the result from function call, right? Yes. So this is the form. Now similarly, I just similarly copy this now. But in this case, what I have to do should be failure. failed to run the which operation it is. It's based on the operation we set. Okay. Action due to I'll just pass the error message. Okay. Now I'll just save it and I'll start the recipe. Okay. Now I'll pass this executed now. So let's see it gives us the response or not. See, successfully computed addition operations, addition of two numbers is equal to 37. Okay. So we got the exact response which we wanted. So now again we pass the multiplications. Okay. To understand the to complete this particular process. Our understanding in this case. Okay. Now what I have to pass now in this case as well. Let's see. I have to see the recipe card because the since it's a case sensitive, since I not added any kind of a validation here, like the to make it down case or up case, right? So just to so that to not to having any complications and just as per that particular records. That's it. Okay. Now see multiplication two numbers is we received 102. So okay, let's see that. Yeah, not to be. We can go to that particular option as well to understand whether we got or not. Okay, let's refresh it. It should be having two options. To yeah, see them. So we have sent as log result as 1 or 2. That's all. So we got the exact results from that particular operations and also as per the requirements. Okay. So with respect to this, let's go back to our presentation now and let's summarize this particular overall process we have seen. Okay. Let's go there. Okay. Now, I would like to close this particular session with a summary of recommendation so that we'll not be having any kind of a confusion on when to use trigger dispatch and when to use callable recipes, right? So example, if your operation is very complex, I would like to suggest go with a trigger dispatch because can call that particular operation separately as asynchronous and as well as you'd be knowing the log since it's a complex operations you're doing to differentiate you can go with a separate operation function itself. Okay, I don't recommend callable recipe because you'll be the same logic, the bigger logic will be handling in the callable recipes. Need separate recipe and jobs or logs, let's definitely go for trigger dispatch. As I said, say example, you how many calls went to additions and how many calls went to multiplications. I would like to check with that. Then I definitely want to go with a trigger dispatch instead of callable recipe. But see, it's all depends on how the requirement comes. See, even we can differentiate the additions and multiplication operation with adding the job reports, right? We can customize it and adding the operations name with that. But say, just to have a clarity on this case, if you need more clarity and not to having go with the check all the operations name like the filtering lot, can go with a separate job, so like separate recipes with a trigger dispatch. Say example, operation are simple and simpler and similar to that, then definitely go for callable recipes. Okay, and if you are preferring centralized logic, then definitely go for callable recipes. Okay, so with this particular note, I would like to close this session. So hopefully you have understood the trigger dispatch and the callable recipes. So have a thought on this. Have a do include your include this particular process in your recipe building, so that will be knowing the difference between differentiating the uh, trigger dispatch and the callable recipe very efficiently, and also you'll be saving a lot of task. Something in terms of the efficiency and also with respect to say with respect to have a if you need a kind of a separate logic behind the process to understand how many calls by now things, definitely go for trigger dispatch in that case. Okay. So hopefully you'll learn from a lot of things from this particular sessions, and also do it efficiently in your case as well. With that one, I'll be closing this session and see you in the next session.